February 14th, 1989. Medellin, Colombia, 11:42 p.m. The envelope doesn't arrive with urgency. There's no knock, no raised voice in the hallway, no coded signal. It slides under the door with the indifference of something that already knows it will be read. Inside the apartment, time feels suspended. The lights are dim, one bulb flickering near the kitchen. A ceiling fan turns slowly, pushing warm air heavy with cigarette smoke. 3 men are present, but only one matters. He notices the envelope. Immediately, he doesn't move. 4 seconds pass before he bends down and picks it up, not because he is afraid, but because instinct tells him that speed would be inappropriate. Messages like this are not meant to be rushed. The paper is thick, the seal is clean, no fingerprints. When he opens it, there is no letter inside, just a single sheet, a date, a time, a name, written once without explanation, without emphasis. He reads it twice. The second time, his breathing changes. Outside, Medellin remains quiet. No sirens, no sudden movement in the street below. The city continues as if nothing irreversible has just been initiated. That illusion is deliberate. What the man doesn't know is that his future was already closed earlier that day, long before the envelope was written, long before he stepped into this apartment believing he had survived. 2 days earlier, several kilometers away, a private meeting took place near the river. No uniforms, no weapons on display. Men sat at a metal table inside a warehouse that smelled of oil and damp concrete. Pablo Escobar arrived without ceremony. He didn't sit immediately. He observed. Faces, posture, silence. Escobar never listened first to words. He listened to tension. An ally spoke. The request was framed carefully. Gratitude, loyalty, shared history. Then the real purpose surfaced. Permission to leave the country. Temporarily, he said. For safety. For the good of everyone involved. Escobar didn't interrupt. What mattered wasn't the request itself. People left Colombia all the time. What mattered was what had already happened before the request was made. Money had moved. Documents had been prepared. Contacts abroad had been activated. The ally wasn't asking for permission. He was informing Escobar that the decision had already been executed. Escobar understood that instantly. He nodded once. The meeting ended early. That nod was interpreted as acceptance. It wasn't. It was classification. From that moment on, the ally was no longer a person Escobar needed to confront. He was a variable that needed to be removed from the equation. Escobar didn't issue threats. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't instruct anyone to follow or intimidate. Instead, he allowed the illusion to complete itself. The passport cleared. The bank transfers finalized. The rumors of Escobar's displeasure quietly disappeared. Silence was restored intentionally. The ally interpreted that silence as success. That was his mistake. Escobar never stops people from leaving. He lets them leave when it no longer matters. Back in the apartment, the man holding the envelope understands now that something has shifted, but he still doesn't understand what. He checks the door. He looks at the phone. It hasn't rung. That absence is more disturbing than any threat, because Escobar doesn't need to warn. If something is written, it means the warning already happened somewhere else. By morning, small irregularities begin to appear. A driver doesn't arrive. A scheduled meeting is postponed without explanation. A government contact fails to return a call he always returns. Individually, none of this means anything. Together, they form a pattern. The name written in the envelope isn't a target. It's a replacement. Escobar isn't eliminating the ally. He's eliminating the necessity of his existence. Routes are reassigned quietly. Responsibilities redistributed. Conversations continue, just without his name. Escobar doesn't erase people violently. He allows systems to forget them. That is far more effective. By the second night, the ally realizes something crucial. There is no pursuit, no pressure, no negotiation. His departure hasn't triggered chaos or retaliation. It has triggered efficiency. Escobar anticipated the betrayal not because he suspected it, but because people who plan exits always behave the same way. They believe movement equals control. Escobar knows control comes from stillness. Across Medellin, a second envelope appears. Different table, different hands, same handwriting. This time, the recipient opens it immediately. He understands what it means. Escobar didn't choose him because he was loyal. He chose him because he was predictable. And predictable men keep systems stable. No shots are fired, no arrests are made, no announcements are issued. But something fundamental changes. People begin hesitating before acting independently. Requests become vague, commitments shrink. Everyone recalculates where they stand. Not because they fear Escobar's violence, but because they understand his silence. The ally who believed he escaped is not hunted. He is outpaced. Within weeks, he notices that his calls go unanswered. His influence no longer opens doors. His presence no longer alters outcomes. Escobar didn't block his future. He replaced it. And when the man finally understands this, it's too late to return. Because Escobar never reacts to betrayal. He absorbs it and moves forward. The state notices the silence too late. From the outside, the organization appears diminished. Fewer movements, fewer visible transactions, fewer signals for intelligence units to intercept. Reports describe a structure under pressure, fractured internally, losing cohesion. Those reports are wrong. What they are observing isn't weakness, it's closure. Escobar doesn't dismantle power when it's threatened. He finishes it. He completes cycles so there is nothing left to attack. While analysts debate the absence of noise, Escobar studies behavior. He watches how quickly people adapt to the new structure. Who hesitates? Who waits for instructions that will never come? Who understands without being told? Those who understand stay. Those who don't quietly disappear from relevance. No one is expelled. No one is punished. They are simply no longer included. Inside the system, the rules have shifted. Not officially, not in writing, but everyone feels it. Decisions are no longer negotiated. Horizontally, they move vertically, cleanly, without friction. Fewer voices, shorter conversations. The betrayal didn't fracture the organization, it refined it. Escobar understands something most leaders never grasp. Betrayal is a filtering mechanism. It reveals who depends on the system and who believes they can exist outside it. The latter are always wrong. The man who left Colombia learns this lesson slowly. Abroad, the air feels different, lighter, safer. He believes distance equals immunity. That geography still matters. At first, life continues normally. Meetings, contacts, conversations filled with polite optimism. People listen when he speaks. They nod. They agree. But nothing moves. Weeks pass, then months. The influence he expected to carry with him doesn't travel. The leverage he thought he owned stays behind. Doors open, but only briefly, and never to the rooms that matter. No one confronts him. No one explains. They don't need to. Back in Medellin, Escobar hasn't mentioned his name once since the meeting by the river. Not because he's avoiding it, but because the system no longer requires reference to something already resolved. New men step into old roles seamlessly. Roots stabilize. Cash flow resumes its rhythm. The organization breathes easier without knowing why. That is Escobar's greatest skill. He makes outcomes feel inevitable in hindsight. Within the inner circle, a quiet understanding settles in. Leaving isn't forbidden. Independence isn't punished. But exiting without alignment means forfeiting relevance. Escobar doesn't chase defectors. He renders them obsolete. The state finally acts, convinced the moment is right. Raids are planned. Names are listed. Old maps are pulled from files. They strike locations that once mattered. They arrive to find nothing. Empty rooms, abandoned routes. People who genuinely don't know what they're being asked. The organization they're targeting no longer exists in the form they understand. Escobar anticipated the pressure months earlier, not because he had intelligence inside the state, but because institutions behave predictably when silence is misread as weakness. He didn't wait for the attack. He finished before it began. Years later, journalists will argue about whether the betrayal accelerated the decline or strengthened the structure. They'll debate motives, loyalty, personality. They'll search for dramatic moments that explain everything. They won't find them, because the real turning point wasn't visible. It was administrative, a name removed from a list, a responsibility reassigned, a conversation that never happened. Escobar never needed to make an example. He made a pattern. Those who remained understood the message without hearing it spoken. Power isn't enforced through fear alone. It's enforced through continuity. As long as the system continues to function without you, you were never indispensable. The man abroad eventually accepts what happened, not fully, but enough to stop trying to reclaim what he lost. He fades into a quieter life, remembered by fewer people each year. Not erased, just irrelevant. And that, in Escobar's world, is the final outcome. Because Escobar doesn't destroy enemies, he survives them. He allows them to live long enough to realize that leaving didn't free them. It removed them from the only structure that gave their actions weight. That realization arrives late, quietly, without witnesses, just like the envelope. This wasn't an isolated incident. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't impulsive. It was procedural. Escobar understood that while others react to events, real power operates upstream, where decisions are made before urgency exists. And once a decision is made there, everything else is just paperwork. That is how the system remained intact. That is how it adapted. And that is why, long after individual names faded, the structure continued to command silence, hesitation, and compliance. Because the most dangerous power doesn't announce itself. It simply moves on.